Have you ever watched a grown adult lose it because somebody reclined their airline seat? Me. Well, that's air rage. That's the Olympic sport that nobody trained for. Comedian and master traveler Monique Marvez is going to join us today. She's here to decode sky madness with the calm authority of someone who survived every boarding group known to man. So buckle up, not for your own safety, but for all of the laughs and whatever humanity you have left today on Off the Couch. And welcome to Off the Couch with Dr. Greg, Psychology for Everyday Life. And today, the life, it couldn't be more real because we're talking travel, and this is travel season. I'm Dr. Greg Cason, psychologist. I'm here with producer Brian Gomez. Hi, Brian.
Hey, how are you guys?
We're waiting for Monique Marvez, but let me tell you who she is. Monique Marvez is a comedian, and she's about to join us. She's been everywhere, nationwide, dates, cruises, cruise ships. She's always in a different country. She called me the other day from Bermuda. Then suddenly she was in Canada. She's always going somewhere. Well, she's the most resilient traveler I ever know. So she actually uses the line that she can sleep standing up in a canoe. So let's talk about air rage. Why we lose our minds in the sky. We're going to talk about the psychology behind in-flight meltdowns. Brian, have you ever lost it in flight?
Not lost it, but I am very easily aggravated when traveling, especially in the airport. I feel like something about just being in the airport is such like anxiety driven. It's like the atmosphere is just so chaotic, so stressful for no reason, but I feel like it's just always like that when I'm going to travel.
Yeah, I can't say that I've ever lost it, but I have expressed my annoyance at people.
Yeah, I haven't lost it, but I do tend to get loud and make sure people are hearing me if I'm like annoyed of them coughing around me. That's the big one for me. If you're coughing near me with like no mask on and you're not even coughing into your shirt, I'm already pissed and you're gonna hear me say that I think you're disgusting and that you need to get the hell out of here. So that's the one. I guess maybe that's losing it, but it's just disrespectful. Don't cough around me, you know?
Don't cough around me. Don't cough around Brian, folks. But it's funny that coughing doesn't bother me as much. There is one thing that really bugs me, and that's why I put that example right at the beginning.
Oh, the chair.
When somebody reclines their chair, they have every right to recline their chair. I'm not saying you don't. But when you're tall, it is really tough. So, yeah, my big thing is actually on the airplane where it usually happens in coach. I actually don't like it when just for for equality's sake, if I'm in premium economy or in business class, if someone reclines their chair, I'm still going to be annoyed because I'm a tall person and it reduces the room that's in front of you. But in economy, when they recline their seat, inevitably my knees get whacked the minute they recline it. And then then you have to deal with that pain.
Yeah, and folks, both Dr. Greg and I are over 6 feet, so our knees, if we're in economy, are already hitting the seat in front of us.
It's already there. But you know who recline their seats? This is my peeve. Not tall people. People who are tall are really sensitive to that, but people who are short love to recline their seat. So that is probably the most angry I got. And there was a guy who reclined his seat, and I was stuck in the middle between two seats, and he reclined his seat in front of me. And he was traveling alone. I knew he was traveling alone. And I said, "Hey, would you mind us switch seats? Because, and I promise I won't recline my seat because it's really tight." He said, "Absolutely not." And then he stood up at the end of the flight, when you stand up to get your bags at the end. But he was really a dick about it. He said, "Absolutely not. I refuse to do that, whatever." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And then I sat back down. But then when we got up to leave the flight, I saw that he was a very small man, like very small, and not a a little person, but a shorter man and very thin, very small. And I said, I go, dude, ugh." I'm so embarrassed I did this, but I have to say this is an example of as much of a rage as I've ever been in. I'm like, look at you. You're so short. I go, I go, I mean, you didn't need to do that. And he got so upset and I felt so bad and it stuck with me because I believe one, that was an ugly thing that I did, but I think that's the closest I became to rageful when I'm traveling.
Yeah, I try to just not engage in it. I feel like first of all, if I'm flying in economy, I feel like I'm holding my breath until I get to my destination. The entire time, it feels like I'm holding my breath. I don't want to get near somebody. I don't want them near me on the seat. I don't recline my seat ever. Well, like I usually used to not travel economy, but this last year, um,
My God, this is the opposite of most people.
no,
He
I'm so
used to
serious.
never travel
I
economy.
used to not.
Now this year he is.
This year has been
Welcome to the real world, Bon
It's
Gomez.
been scary. It's been scary for sure. Uh, but I just know that it's like, okay, this is the cheapest way to get from point A to point B. I just want to get in the seat and get to the place without interacting with anybody. I just want to get there and get it over with pretty much. I'm not trying to like lean back and I mean the seat doesn't even lean back that much. So I don't understand why people are reclining their seats
My
to begin
favorite
with.
flights are the ones where either they don't lean back. That's like, there are different airlines where the seats literally, they're so tight they don't allow them to lean back. And to me, that's fine. Like I can deal with that. As long as I don't get whacked on the knees, I'm good. And then the other is the shells where you can move your seats and the person in front of you never experiences the recline. But some people don't like those where the seat is in the shell, like in Air New Zealand, because then it reduces your leg room in front of you when you recline in the seat. So I think that's just fine too. I mean, either you're willing to do it or you're not. But if you want to recline, there's a little price to pay, and that you have to have a little reduced leg room. But anyway, that's my peeve. My other peeve: people who take off their shoes and socks and or people who put their feet up on the armrest, especially my armrest. Have you had that? I can't. I've had to ask people, "Would you mind removing your foot from the armrest?" Like, or on the wall in front of them, people putting their feet up.
I think that's just gross. I think there I would snap for sure because I'm glad I feel like I have like a resting bitch face most of the time, where I just don't look as nice unless you talk to me. Because I don't even know how I would react to that. Like I would just be fucking pissed off. Sorry for cursing, but like I would just be so annoyed at somebody putting their feet up. Like that's just nasty, you know?
Oh, I've had evil thoughts about usually it's smelly food that gets to me. Um, Smelly food that they bring on the plane, or what's the other one? Oh, when they speak on a speakerphone or watch a video on a speakerphone on a plane. I mean, you're like, hello? Especially when you're waiting for the plane to take off. It's the most bizarre thing. Do these people have no self-awareness?
And bringing that up, I think I mentioned it to you the other day. I saw one of the Real Housewives of Atlanta, I think, recently got into it with another passenger on the plane because she was watching videos or something on her phone and it was loud. And apparently, the other passenger, like, confronted her about it. Not sure exactly what happened, but they had to, like, when they landed, the FBI or airport security was there to escort them. So that's my big fear whenever I am upset at something because I feel like I don't know how to handle, engaging with people when I'm upset like that, that I just don't want to go to jail. And especially when you're flying, it's like the rules are a lot different up there that yeah, I try to, that's why for me, it feels like I'm holding my breath until I'm where I need to go.
No, seriously. So let's talk about the 5 psychological triggers for human aggression in general, and we can see why planes actually are a hotbed for this. One is loss of control. Loss of control. You certainly have that on a plane. crowding and personal space invasion. We see
That's a
rats
big one.
when we get rats in a cage and we overcrowd them, they become aggressive toward each other. Another is status inequity. Geez, that's basically what a plane is. I think Monique's here. Um, Another is fatigue and stress, and delays and uncertainty. And all five together make the nervous system snap. Oh my God, Monique Marvez, hi!
Hello,
Look
dear.
how good you look.
Thank you.
Look at this, folks.
It's 80 degrees outside.
How is it 80 degrees? We just had a cold snap.
Yeah, well, it's snapped back.
We were just talking about humans snapping. We're talking about travel.
Oh, I love that. I love snapping humans.
So this is Monique Marvez, comedian, but also master traveler.
I am.
I've never talked to someone who's in so many different places all the time.
Time zones, airports. It's kind of, honestly, I kind of marvel. I marvel at it.
Well, you talked about being a road comic, but you're not just on the road. You're in planes, you're on ships.
I don't do the road that much anymore. I used to enjoy driving. Back in the day, people could call me up before there was Yelp or Wikipedia or anything. And I'm not doing this well today. And they would say,
Not bizarre.
we'll talk about it in a minute. We'll talk about not doing things well. Maybe I need to be in an airport. I do so well there. But when I was a road comic, people would call and they'd say, I'm on the 10. I'm in between New Orleans and Mobile. I'm looking for something to eat. I'd be like, go to Dick Russell's Barbecue. It's in Timmins Corner. Order the pulled pork. The brisket can be dry. I mean, it's incredible how much I crisscross the country in an automobile and how little I crisscross the country now. I mean, it's always airplanes now. I enjoyed driving. I took pleasure in driving.
Well, I'm always picking you up at an airport or doing something like that. And I
How I know we're friends. Real friends pick each other up at the airport. Fake friends are like, forget it.
Well, it's never a negative with you because I get to see you.
Yeah, I feel the same way. And actually, here's the thing about travel. You have to keep the end place, meaning the reason I travel so well is because it's a means to an end. So I always think in terms of what's going to happen when I get where I'm going. Like, I'm going to have a show. I'm going to see people I love. I'm going to see you. I'm going to go to Disneyland. I never think it's kind of like calling the shot like Babe Ruth. If you're always looking at where you're going versus how you're getting there, you're going to be okay.
That's actually great advice.
Thank you.
That's actually great advice. And I wonder if people would travel a little better if they always thought that. Because I think what happens, we were just starting to talk about why people get rageful on planes. And I was basically saying there are a lot of psychological triggers for anger, and air travel kind of embodies all of them. But what
anger, denial, bargaining, depression, except
that is the grief process.
Death.
Yeah. Or death. Yes. But but like, you're in a pressure cooker, you've got sensory overload when you're going into an airport, people aren't used to traveling, they get lost, all their anxiety goes up, they have uncertainty. Is the plane going to take off on time? What gate am I at? How much time do I have
it's
to
a
do the
metaphor
rest?
for life. I got news for you. That's planet Earth.
It's planet Earth that it's all boiled into one thing, I think. And I think that's what is really causing it, but also just being smashed up against people and feeling our territory is threatened.
Well, I think that's part of it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say something horrible because, I do that. I take intense pleasure in being good at things. And because I'm a good traveler,
Yeah.
I like being sort of the follow me, I know what I'm doing. I take pleasure in seeing people that don't know how to travel properly and swooping in and helping. Like the people that fly Southwest that don't understand how it works. And they're like, is my seat A30? No, your position in line is I'm the person who eavesdrops and will step in and say, if somebody doesn't know English or they clearly have never traveled or they don't know how to consolidate their bags into two, I take pleasure in being, I know what I'm doing. And And I feel that if everybody kind of leaned into there's always someone less equipped to do this than you, it's life. It's a metaphor for life.
Well, you're very nice. I do
am.
always try to, I'm always, because I'm taller, always the one being asked to take down a bag, and they always weigh like 100
People
pounds.
ask you to take their bag down?
Yeah.
I always have
Oh,
men
can you
ask
get
me to put my bag up, and I always say, I'm okay. If you do it, then I'm going to get lazy. Like, I don't let people help me because I say, one day I won't be able to do this, but today's not the day.
Yeah. Now, usually putting it up, and I think getting it down's the harder thing because the weight comes on to you.
Oh, yeah.
And you've got to manage it with everyone kind of pushing
I would
into
like
you.
to think it's old ladies and not just like regular dudes that aren't as tall as you.
No,
that ask for help.
it's all people.
That's so wrong.
Yeah, but I don't think I'm actually okay with it.
Wrong.
I'm okay with it. It's that one doesn't bother me at all.
I don't know. I think you're being yourself. I think denial is admittance. I think the fact that
you heard you missed that I talked about when I've been a real dick on the airplane.
I don't think that's possible.
Oh,
You don't have it in you.
no,
I've been horrible. Like when people say, "Oh, would you mind moving over because this woman has a lap child?" I'm like, "No, should have bought the kid a seat. I paid for the aisle." I've done it. I have been really nasty. Can I sit next to my husband? No. I want this seat. That's why I picked it. If I didn't want it, I wouldn't have picked it.
There you go.
No, I have done that because the bottom line is if you don't plan ahead or you're not willing to pay, airlines nickel and dime you now. So even just to pick a seat, it's $21 or $50 or $80 or whatever it is, or that they randomly give you a seat. So if you weren't willing, if you played seat lotto and you lost, not my problem.
Yeah, that's why I'm always willing to pay a little bit more
Always.
for a better seat. And it's unfortunate, but yeah, some of those bad seats can be very bad. So
Totally bad.
and I try not to do them. Once I did have to get on a last minute. I won a prize, and part of the prize was it was like a free cruise, but I had to buy a ticket. I think it was 2 months before to go to Spain, and I didn't have any money, and I bought the cheapest ticket.
How long ago was this?
Oh, this was I want to say 15, 20 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, you've been successful for a while
But
now.
I remember going onto the plane, and I had a middle seat next to the restroom between these two very large, very, very large adults. And I was very concerned.
Were they smelly?
They were not. But they were German.
I bet smelly.
But they were German, and they didn't speak English. So and it's a husband and wife, clearly. And I said, did you want me to move? Like they wanted to sit one at the window, one at the aisle. And I was trying to figure out, did you want to sit next to each other?
They-
do something? No, they didn't.
Of course not. They're German.
But what was so
They're not a romantic people.
wonderful about that was one of the most pleasant. I was next to the restroom. I was smelling that the entire flight.
Nice.
I
It
was-
might have been one of them.
I was maybe I was between them and
Between two ferns.
between two large ferns, and I couldn't tell you that it was one of the most pleasant flights. They were so sweet, and they were a little bit pillowy. Like I felt like kind of held, and they were so sweet. It was the weirdest thing. I
One of
thought.
those vests,
I thought
like Temple Grandin.
it all comes down to like kind of energy that people give off.
Yes.
Because
Amen.
I'm like, this should be an uncomfortable flight, and I'm actually having a nice time.
You want to hear horrible? You want to hear 3 horrible stories?
What? Yeah.
Quickly?
Start.
Quickly?
1, 2.
Okay. Number 1, I once sat next to a guy. I saw him coming down the aisle, and I was like, F me, because I knew he was coming right for me. Middle seat. Okay. It was this flight, Mexico, and cruise, whatever. The upshot is he had just flown to Mexico to get cheap gastric bypass. So it hadn't taken effect yet. So the guy had just he was Gilbert Grape fat, and he was, I think, oozing. But the upshot is, but when he sat next to me and said, he told me his story, then I thought to myself, you horrible biatch. This guy, because he told me that he flew down there. When he got there, like the clinic had barbed wire and stray dogs, and he was terrified. And he'd already prepaid and he went through with it. And all I could think is, how much do you hate yourself and the way you look that you would risk your life in a Mexican bariatric clinic surrounded by stray dogs? And then I had this wave of massive love and empathy. And I thought, I don't even care if this guy oozes on me. Like, I don't care. Like, I feel so bad for him. Like, I fell a little bit in love with him. And I was like, I don't care, dude. Like, I was like pressed up against the window the whole time. But just after hearing his story, I felt like you're so lucky to be able to fit in this seat and to not hate yourself and to, to the contrary, I love myself. So I thought that was going to be like you with the Germans. I thought it was going to be the most horrible flight, and it wasn't. I surprised myself how decent I could be. I was really a good person.
Good.
So that's story number 1.
Yeah.
Story number 2, same thing. I see this woman coming down the aisle in a full nun's habit. I'm like, F me, I'm getting the nun.
Nuns are fun.
So I got the nun, and then we had this whole talk about how she like let me in on the fact that the clergy was going to strike in Boston for the first time in the history of Boston over cardinal law. Like, she basically took it upon herself to be the advocate for the Catholic Church and say, we are angry about the molestation and angry that it's brushed under. Like, she spent the whole flight basically telling me, I'm ashamed to be a nun. You need to know what we're doing as Catholics, as clergy, to try and right the wrong. The rank and file have threatened to strike. And I was like, you go, activist nun, closet lesbian.
Yeah.
I love you. Like, we had the best flight, right? I almost started singing Dominique from my childhood, the singing nun. And I told her about Sally Fields and how I once dressed as the flying nun for Halloween. It was a wonderful flight. Third story. This one's bad. This one does not end well. I saved it. So I get on the flight in Louisville, Kentucky, after breaking up with the man I only refer to as Dog of Satan. And it was 2000, and the Matrix was fresh in my head. And I get on the flight, and this elderly, slightly full-figured Black woman who looked like the Oracle sat next to me. And I thought, if she looks like the Oracle, it's a sign she is the Oracle. So I looked at her, and I just said, "Do you believe it? So and she said, oh, honey, whatever you're going through, I promise it'll pass. And I just leaned against the window and sobbed for 3 hours.
Wait, that's a really
Next to the
beautiful
Oracle.
story, actually. That's
I thought, if she looks, I'm going. I'm doing it. And she was like, and just the way she responded, she even sounded like the Oracle. I was like, it's a sign. I just like, for like 3 hours, that poor woman had watched me sob like an idiot. But I felt better. That's the crazy part. I felt like the Oracle had confirmed for me that this too shall pass.
good.
I went with it.
And it did.
It did.
Eventually.
Never been happier.
Good.
Thank God for Dog of Satan. I bless him.
Good. Well, yeah, even if you have a really bad flight, yeah, you can end up better on the other end of it. And maybe that's part of the message that we need to give. The kind of interesting thing that you talk about is being able to have that point of view, the length point of view, what I always call the 10,000 foot view, but it could be the 10,000 feet ahead view too. That you will be past this.
Yes.
So even if you're having inconvenience, even if I'm getting my knees whacked or, all kinds of, I know all kinds of things happening, that things will happen. But I want to continue to talk about why flights, people get so mad. What?
I have an idea.
Yeah.
I think it's because social media has made everybody think that their own reality show and super self-important, and that it's bled into the airline industry because everybody thinks it's all about them all the time, and they're totally entitled and annoying. And I once saw this couple with matching facelifts in first class and they had matching emotional support dogs in their lap and matching plastic surgery.
Oh.
And they were the most annoying people. And the flight attendant was asking them so nicely, because, they treat first class passengers like, baby Jesus. So this lady was like, would you please? And I don't remember even what the flight attendant was asking, but it was reasonable. It was like, could you put like the dog beds in the overhead because you're in the bulkhead, whatever it was. Facelift 1 and 2 were like looking at her like she was speaking a foreign language. And finally, The flight attendant was like, if you don't do this, you're going to have to get off the flight. And they like challenged her, like, do you know who we are? And I was like, who could? Whatever you used to look like, it ain't that anymore. So, but anyway, so and the flight attendant, she was like, well, and she told the pilot, and the pilot must have called the air marshal, whatever. Somebody came and escorted them and their Yorkies off the plane, and everyone on the flight cheered.
Yeah.
They were like, GTFO, you entitled S. Like, they were so annoying that the flight literally cheered when they got kicked off.
I don't think that it's kind of interesting that people who are entitled are not thinking about anybody else.
No.
I just saw, I heard some people talking about earlier a little fact that I had not really thought of. First class, number one, is filled with people who usually have a great deal of money. Maybe they can be lucky and get upgraded, etc. But
I
usually
travel a lot, so even though
you get bumped,
Yeah.
or you have points, and
yeah, I use points.
you know
I'm
how
a
it is.
city mouse. I'm the country mouse, but I get to travel like a city mouse.
Oh, that's good. But the other is that people often, when they do have a great deal of money, even when they didn't previously, but they've been living in that world, sometimes or often lose empathy. It's really striking to me that
Manners.
Warren Buffett still lives in the same little 2-bedroom or 3-bedroom house that he originally bought. Like he is,
And he drives an old car.
yeah, and he's never upgraded his life beyond that. But he's, has untold wealth, and so he's managed to stay humble, and thus his attitudes very much reflect that when he talks about tax policy or his secretary or how people are paid in organizations. But I think a lot of people who earn a great deal of money start to forget what it's like to not have as much money.
Or they were waiting their turn to be a douche.
Or maybe there's just maybe it was on pause till we got there.
Money is money, like alcohol, drugs, fame. Money's just an accelerant. Whatever you were when you were poor, you just do it faster and harder with money. So they were probably already not a nice person. Because money's just an accelerant.
There is a study. This really struck me. Like I was looking into this, and I'm like, this one study kind of blew me out of the water.
Which one?
It was a study done in PNAS, and they looked at
What is PNAS?
It's I wish I wrote down the name. It's a journal.
Okay.
But it's a flight journal or whatever.
Okay.
But it's basically they looked at flights over a long period of time, and they were looking at air incidents like rage incidents or anger incidents, and they looked over like thousands of flights and kind of put them together, and they were able to show statistically that just having a first class on an airplane increased these anger incidents. So if a plane didn't have a first class, there were fewer incidents on the plane. But when they do have a first class...
Well, because people are triggered when they have to go through the champagne people on their way to the tight seats.
That's exactly right. It triggers... That's the thing we call...
People spent money on that study?
Yeah, no.
I could have told you that.
Status inequity. But what was more interesting to me was not just that it's overall on the plane, it's also in first class. But the first class people, it's often due to entitlement. That's what they were.
Well, they try to out first class each other. Like I just flew first class last weekend because, again, upgrade.
Yeah.
And I guess it was like a football game, Dallas against somebody, because there was a bunch of people in first class in Dallas shirts. Mm-hmm. And the lady next to me looked like she didn't have a pot to piss in or a window to throw it out of. And she was super nice. Like she just basically said, hey, if the flight attendant comes by, don't let me miss breakfast. I was like, no, I'll wake you up. She was cool. But some of the other Dallas Jersey people, they were like full on, these are the kind of people who probably drive a Cadillac with Longhorns on the front or something.
Drunk and rowdy. That
like
is a
from
thing.
back in the day.
Does that still exist in Texas, Brian? Oh, that is the classic. Yeah.
Yeah, remember back in the day. But yeah, the rest of the first class were, not like her. But I was like, oh, it's my lucky day. I get to sit next to the humble Texan.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I could go over. I've had so many great seatmates and seatmates I've never said word one to. And
Have you ever met a stranger and just started making out like crazy? And then they made you sit in the back of the plane because people were complaining?
That was you?
Asking for a friend.
That's never happened to me.
Happened to me twice. But I've traveled a lot for 30 years. And they were long flights.
Oh, well, that makes it different.
The first time I didn't have to go sit in another seat, but it was from Japan, so the Japanese people were not having it. The two big Americans were just going at it, so they were like they were clearing their throats a lot. Yeah, it was bad.
I did fly in a flight where the two people next to me were practically going at it, and I was like, and I'm here on the aisle seat, I'm just faced out almost the entire time.
Yeah, no, I mean clothes on and whatnot, but just like I don't even know. It was a very long flight. By the end of the flight, we were just making out. I think it's because I don't drink and I gave them my sake. So when they had double sake,
Well, I mean,
because I don't need alcohol to get stupid, but some people do.
but I think I was really interested. One is status inequity for the people with the first class that walk through it and go, oh, I'm not being treated fairly. And that's a concept in anger that I don't get the same treatment. Now,
Newsflash, life is not fair.
no, it isn't fair. But no,
Newsflash.
but I think it triggers them to start to look at how things aren't equal for them. And so that may start to trigger their brain before they can kind of rationalize it and goes, oh, I got a cheaper ticket. I mean, it's not rocket science what's happening here.
Yeah.
But the other is that they think I should be treated well, et cetera, et cetera. But then you go.
You're flying. You're not on a bus. Any plane is better than a bus.
That is true.
Even Spirit is a bus in the sky.
Having traveled across the U.S. in a bus, I can say yes.
Me too.
But I do like the big long seats. But the other is when you're in first class, you feel more entitled, and so people are less tolerant, and so they're often meaner to the flight crew, which is really horrific because the flight crew is quite lovely, especially like you said,
First class
when you're
is
in
so
business.
nice.
They're so nice because they just are.
I always ask for weird things. Like they say, would you like coffee? And I say, yes. And they say, how do you take it? And I say, ridiculously creamed and sugared. And then they go, well, we'll bring it to you. And then they bring me a cup with all those creamers and sugar. I go, you're getting close. I really do. To me, coffee is just a vehicle for cream and sugar. But the airplanes are kind of tight with the cream and sugar. But first class, they'll bring you as much as you want.
No, I mean, I remember once being on a flight when this is years and years ago, and I was in coach, and I asked for an extra bag of pretzels, and she said no.
No. No?
I was super hungry. I go, can I get another bag? No.
I flew Air Norway, Norwegian Air to Paris when they still had Norwegian Air.
Yeah.
And I loved Norwegian Air because it was a seat lotto. So you could bid on an upgrade. Wow. So I bid like $250 or something. It wasn't a lot of money to be upgraded to first class.
Oh, yeah.
And I won the bid. So I got to sit up in first class for the ticket was like $600 round trip to and from Paris. And then for extra $250, I was in first class. They brought me Baileys and everything.
Wow.
I know.
That does sound cool.
Premium alcohol.
It's funny. Here we are talking about our experiences, but it does bring up, because I guess although I've flown probably less than the two of you, I have flown a lot. And once I was flying back from Washington, D.C., and I did one of those upgrades. I think I was in economy, and they send you a thing. They're like, I think it was $250. Yeah. For $250 more, you can upgrade to first class. Well, it was in one of those old-fashioned planes that had a first class, a business, and an economy class. I mean, one of these giant-ass planes. And so I was in the first class, and you have like a little cabin area.
Oh, yeah. You get a blankie.
But who's right next to me but this guy who took off his shoes and socks, put his feet up on the thing, and I was constantly trying not to look at his
You had to say feet.
Because he had to project his feet up on the very top. But I was thinking, who is this guy? What a jerk. But I'm just trying to avoid the look of his feet. Well, who comes tottering down the aisle, seated, as I realized later, in business class with their children, was a very famous singer. I won't say her name, but it rhymes with Alanis Morissette. But she came, and then
I didn't know Alanis had kids.
Well, maybe they weren't hers. I don't know, but she was.
I love her though.
Yeah, no, I'm sure she's quite lovely, and I really enjoyed her music and her musical, but I did not enjoy when she straddled her husband almost the entire flight. Or boyfriend. I don't know who this guy was.
Who knows?
I mean, I wasn't doing anything. But you know,
I didn't straddle him.
I had
We
to
just
keep
made out.
I had to keep a blanket over me.
So
just
you
to
were
not
between
have to
feet
see.
sex maniacs. By the way, would you like to hear something weird? This is how OCD I am when you talk about trigger.
Yeah.
Like I got dressed quickly because I was going to wear something else. And then I looked at my watch and it said it was warm. So I put on this nice vest and it works well with the hat. I look very cabaret, but it's because my hair is dirty. I'm going to do hot yoga.
Oh, you look great.
Thanks. So I put it together like that. And, but I had to put these boots on because I want to look nice. And the bottoms of my feet are black. My housekeeper cleaned, and sometimes do you get things stuck in your head where you're like, I should have wiped my feet, but I was running late? Like, I feel bad sitting next to you knowing that you don't even have to see them for me to be embarrassed at the underside of my feet. Like, another day I want to talk about quirks, like the fact that some people, like when you have to be someplace, all of a sudden you stop and do things that you don't have time to do. So I want you to know I didn't do that. My feet are filthy. Getting to you so important that it overrode my OCD.
You know, I cannot help but say thank you for allowing your feet to stay soiled
Black.
with us.
So black.
That's really a compliment.
But it is because I'm one of those people that even when I know I have to do something, I've heard I'm not the only person. I've heard that there's people that say like, I have a friend who was like guest pastor at his church. And his wife was like, you got to go. You're going to be late. And that's the time when he decides he wants to fry up a pair of eggs or something. Like, and I know we're talking about travel, but the bottom line is, I bet there's people that miss their flights
This
because
made me miss a flight because of that. Because I was trying to set the timers on in the house so that the lights would come on and off, so it would look like somebody was home. And that made us late for the flight. And I wanted to get cheap parking. I was a combination of those two things. It's always a combination. And I wanted to get cheap parking, so I parked in one of those far lots and took a bus in, but it was one of those cheaper ones,
so
not
the
like
buses
the really
aren't
dead
every
ones.
15
Yeah.
minutes. They say it is,
like-
but it isn't.
The bus was like every Tuesday or something.
Yeah.
It was not a good thing. So made us miss our flight. We get there and it was terrible. My partner Kevin was sick. It was a terrible thing I did, and I felt so bad that from that point on I said, no matter what, even if I don't, the only thing that's going to hold me back is if I don't have my passport in possession, but otherwise I'm leaving. I don't care if I don't have bags.
Oh.
Like, I will leave because I couldn't believe how badly I felt about making us miss our flight.
When I used to do radio, morning drive, I would set an alarm, which was my drop dead time. I had to walk out to the car, and whatever I was doing, when the alarm went off, stop, get in the car. So I remember one time I was in a very important meeting after my radio show, and the person kept looking at me and they go, "You only have mascara on one eye." The alarm went off. So yeah, this morning I was doing everything and just kept getting interrupted. And then I was like, I'm going with black feet.
There you go. Well, thank you for doing that.
Absolutely.
So let's also talk about, just because we're nearly out of time.
Sorry.
One of the biggest problems I think is alcohol, which people think calms them down, but it actually increases ankle potential.
Of course it does.
Yeah, because it decreases their defense systems, and essentially it fires them up, the sugar, and they're drunk, they're disinhibited, they're more likely to get, so if they're already an angry person, they're going to go there. The other is exhaustion. Most of us don't get a good night's sleep before a flight. Even if we have enough time, often we're worried about waking up in time or packing or what's going to happen the next day. So that gets to people. And the other is jet lag, that once you adjusting to a new time zone can sometimes be really crazy. You know what? I never mind jet lag when I'm in a place that I'm flying to. Like, I don't care. I can just adjust. But when I fly home and it affects my work, everything, I mean, it really is a big threat to me.
I don't get jet lag.
You're amazing.
I literally don't get it.
You know, somebody should study you because you are probably one of the most resilient people I've ever known, but you're also a resilient traveler. I'm like, this is me. This is when I pick up Monique. Hey, Monique, how was the flight? Great. And then she's on to the next thing.
Well, the thing, here's life in general. Here's the thing about life, because travel is just a part of life. It's all a decision. You decide. So in my movie, in my life, like I say, what's the end? What's the win? Well, the win is, I get to be me. I get to be a comedian, or I get to go to Disneyland, or I get to see someone I love. I never traveled like, oh, when I get there, they're going to poke me in the eye. You're like, who travels to go get poked in the eye? So, yeah, I mean, unless you're traveling with a marshal because you've been arrested and they're taking you to another state, there's no reason. Travel is a privilege. People forget. 50 years ago, it was very, very expensive, and it wasn't as common as it is now. I remember when people dressed up. I remember my first flight in the early 70s as a little girl. My mom bought me an outfit for the plane. I had like an outfit. Me and my mom matched to fly to go visit our cousins in Pennsylvania.
Cute.
Oh, yeah. And I think about, we just take things for granted. And I think the reason I'm resilient is because I'm an overgrown child that's excited about everything all the time.
So I came up with some how to stay sane on a flight. Would
Okay.
you check me?
All right.
Pre-flight mental reset. That is deciding what's in your control that day. Eating, hydrating, sleeping, like preparing yourself that,
Right.
I'm just going to do what I can
Pack
do.
snacks. I always tell people, pack
Snacks. Expect delays. Expect delays, for God's sake. When you're on the plane, if you start getting anxious and you feel your heart start beating fast, inhale slowly 4 breaths, pause, and then exhale slowly 6 breaths. And then do that 5 times, and that should start to relax you.
Yeah. And also download a movie you like. Who sits on a plane without, preparation?
Well, I've done that too. And then you know what? You deal with whatever the plane gives you. If they have movies, you watch those, or you read their magazine, which I've read cover to cover sometimes.
Me too. I've watched movies on planes that I didn't expect to affect me.
Oh my God.
The first time I saw Jojo Rabbit, I was sobbing. The flight attendant was like, "Are you okay?" I'm like,
well, we were connecting. We both watched The Whale on a plane.
Brendan Fraser
talked about sobbing on a plane.
I was
watching this movie.
It was a hot mess.
What a great movie that was.
Absolutely.
Another is to create a travel bubble. Like that's noise canceling earphones, sweater, blanket, snacks. That's what you talked about. Water, entertainment, so that you can kind of go into your tiny little world here. And then if somebody starts to escalate with you, if they're rude, you can speak a little softer, keep your statement short.
Or you could just say,
"Don't be very direct." You could say that. Yes, that would be another option.
It works really well.
The other thing is flight crews. I think we have to give them a lot of deference. I always tell my clients, especially when they're feeling anxious or wonder what's going on, watch the flight crew. They know what's happening.
Of course they do.
And I've only ever once seen flight crew panic. And I was like, that was serious. And I remember it was a very serious. We had an abandoned landing, and we had to have an emergency, reroute, etc. But because we couldn't get the plane down, so it was a mess. But other than that, I've never seen a flight crew panic, even in the worst turbulence. So look at them, and you know that whether you're okay.
I have to tell you, entitlement. I remember one time I spent a lot of money to get like these JetBlue nonstop good seats to New York for me and a friend. I was so excited about going to New York, and you like a nonstop flight costs more than a layover.
Always do.
So we were all excited about getting to New York, and all of a sudden they were like, "We have to land," and it was like technically it's like Cincinnati, but it's North Kentucky. Evidently somebody was ill, so they're like, "We have a medical emergency. We have to land." And I remember thinking, "You gonna give me back my money? I could have taken the." I mean, I didn't say it out loud, but then they got, they have a special skinny wheelchair that can go down the aisle. So they went and got the lady. She was sitting behind me, and they pushed her back in the skinny wheelchair. And I mean, I didn't say anything, but there were other people going, she looks fine to me. Why did we have to put... People were like vocalizing, like, what's the matter with her? Her eyes are open. She doesn't look sick or anything. Why do we have to stop? And I'm thinking, you don't know. Like, she could just be...
You don't know.
She could just be trying to put on a brave face, but she's had like a mild heart attack or something.
That's
You don't know what could have happened to that lady. She looked perfectly fine when they were pushing her down the aisle. But I don't think you asked the flight attendant to drop a flight because you're having a stomach ache.
No, and flight attendants
They
won't
won't
do
do
that
it.
randomly. Yeah, no.
No, you gotta be...
No, they're used to people having panic attacks and freaking out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
for real.
not an unusual thing.
No, I saw a cereal barfer once. They were just bringing bag after bag after bag.
Yeah.
This person, the barf bags, and they're like, "Do you need more tissue?" Like, well, who's that? I would have liked it if they would have dropped the plane and got the barfer off, because you know how sometimes when you hear like this, sometimes it'll start a chain reaction.
We need to end this topic.
We're gonna end on cereal barfing.
Yes, because I'm feeling
Why
really emaciated.
Yes.
No, we're just stuck with the time. I mean, I don't know what the hell. We had like a million mishaps. This
It was a thing.
This is one of those days. Just want to point out, like, we're pointing out bad behavior. It's not they're not bad people. They're just doing bad things.
Oh no, I think they're total douches. I think they're probably douches on land.
They may be douches.
This word's douches in the air.
No, that's true. That's true. But I mean, I don't doubt that people who would raise their voice on a plane are more likely to raise their voice outside. People who are entitled on a plane probably feel entitled in many circumstances.
Sure.
So there are all kinds of things. And me, I'm banging my head and my knees all the time.
You're the nicest man in the world.
I'm not that.
No, you really are. You always say you're not, but you are.
Story.
Yeah.
Well, so if we just understanding though what causes anger can really help us. So small actions can calm big meltdowns. So one thing I did, Monique, because I thought, we just are not going to be able to get to everything. I put together a handout which goes through all of the psychology of, how to deal with anger on a plane.
Do I have a test?
No, not at all. We're not giving you a test today. That I did create that. We put it in our YouTube, youtube.com/Dr. Greg. So there's a handout. Also, I have links to the studies that, especially that PNAS study. Go look up what that journal means. I actually forget
Who cares?
what the acronym means. But it's a very serious study, and that's why it really kind of blew me away. And a longitudinal study analyzing like thousands of flights over like 30 years or whatever it is. Crazy. I mean, sometimes studies just prove what people are already suspect.
Intuitively, no.
But we can't prove it because there's sometimes studies show the opposite of what people think. And we did a whole show on that common sense is actually not that common, and what people think is common sense, they disagree on all the time. So common sense is not really something we can just point to and say, yeah, that's just common sense.
Fair enough.
So that's why we do the research.
I like to say conventional wisdom more than common sense.
Conventional wisdom is probably a better word. Yeah, there you go. So thanks for joining us today, Monique. Monique Marvez, MoniqueMarvez.com.
Yep.
By the way, and
at Monique Marvez official fan page on Facebook, because I'm maxed out on my private, and that sounds terrible. I'm maxed out on my private.
You got a lot of private.
Yeah,
private
5,000 people. That's all they give you, and then you got to have an official fan page. So Monique Marvez official fan page on Insta at Monique Marvez, MoniqueMarvez.com.
And it's MONIQUE.
Yes, MARVEZ. I always want to say MOUSC, but it's not.
Oh, that would be good. So if you saw yourself in any of today's patterns, take a breath. You're not broken. You're just human. Remember, insight's the first step, but taking action is what moves the needle. And so does social support. So if this meant something to you, go ahead and share this with a friend, at least to laugh about Monique's stories about, I don't know, the Mexican clinics. Thank you, Monique. You really great that you're here.
Always.
Thank you.
I'd be here every Tuesday if I wasn't traveling.
Well, we're gonna be amping up our podcast that we're doing together
with
called
Privileges.
Friends with Privileges, and we're gonna be doing that more frequently.
Yes, we are.
So that's gonna become a thing. So look up Friends with Privileges
On
Look,
YouTube.
Go to YouTube. Go to Monique Marvez's YouTube.com. YouTube.com/Monique Marvez.
Yeah, if you just type me in and find my channel, Friends with Privileges is all over.
Friends with Privileges, and it's great, and it will only get better.
Well, at the last one, people said you were very loose. People like when you're loose.
I think Brian was really annoyed with me today because I was a little too loose. So don't forget to rate, review, and follow us Off the Couch with Dr. Greg, Apple, Spotify. Hit us up on socials, and until next time. Oh, we can do your outro.
Oh, let's do yours. It's your show.
Oh,
Do you have
okay.
one?
Yeah.
What is it?
Be present, be flexible, and be kind.
Ooh, I like that.
Bye.